for this opportunity. As Dan has said, my name is Catherine Wamwangi. For those who have not interacted with me before, I'm a human resource practitioner with bias in strategy and finance. I've been in the HR field for the last 20 years or so now, pushing on to 25, I think, about to retire. I'm also a trained certified coach at executive level, so I enjoy that a lot. And of course, this topic for today really blends in very well in some of the principles for coaching feedback. I remember we also held uh, this 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 training, but in a different styled in a different way about 3 weeks ago. So we're just building up the momentum in terms of giving feedback, because it's very crucial in term, especially in this day and age, where communication feedback during the corona times is extremely important for our teams, and how it is also given, people will feel much more drawn into. So I also lecture at the College of HR. So if you're there taking coaching, I might be a lecturer or strategy. You might meet me in some of those classes, and I enjoy facilitating training. I really enjoy it here because I get to learn as well. I get to meet new networks. And this is the way now that we are meeting virtually, but I believe that it also works, and we embrace technology, we move with it, and we're able to make sure that the expectations of our personal development is also met. So a very warm welcome to all of you. I can see that we have Christine, we have Collins, we have Doreen, and we have Ida. I believe other people will also be joining. And I also really appreciate the fact that it's a Saturday and you have many errands to run and to places to go, but you chose to be here so that we can learn together. I would like to start by always asking for someone to say a prayer for the session. Who is going to pray for us? And then after that, we'll go. We are 6 of us. I'll say we maybe introduce ourselves and what our expectations are for today. So who's going to pray for us? Someone pray for us. Anyone who's willing to pray for us? Dan, will you pray for us today? It's a long time since I asked you to pray, Dan. Dan, please pray for us. Unmute yourself. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, how do I say it? I say, Father, we come before you this morning. We pray that you give us a good session. You take us through the training. As we go through the training, give us understanding and give us the energy so that we stay along with our trainer until the end. We shall thank you when that time comes. We pray and believe that you've heard our prayers this morning. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it's also nice that you put on your video. You know, it's important because maybe some other people have not seen you before. So it's really nice, you know, that we can see you and appreciate who Dan is. Nice. Yeah. Thank you for the prayer. We always trust God that he leads us through. So I'd like to start off. And Christine, would you like to introduce yourself? And your today's expectations for this webinar, for this training, the power of giving feedback. You unmute yourself. Okay, Christine. Christine is not ready. Has Collins left? Doreen? Great, okay. Christine, Ida, Doreen, Collins, anybody? Expectations for today? A short introduction. We're extremely few as other people join. Aida?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ida Ocheng.
Mm.
I'm a HR officer at the judiciary. My expectation is I know feedback is an important part of our daily engagement in the workforce. And I would like to know how both negative and positive feedback are important to us. Most of the times we don't like negative feedback, but I believe they're very important because it either shows you your weakness somewhere where you're going wrong or areas of improvement. So that is my most area that I would really like to know how to deal with negative feedback.
Exactly. How do we deal with negative feedback? How do we give it, Yeah. I think that's very important. Yeah. Thank you. Aida, welcome. Yeah. Collins or Christine or Doreen or Carol. People can unmute themselves. They can go first. Meeting. Collins, are you able to? Oh, Christine has unmuted. Okay, Christine, go.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning. Good morning.
My name is Christine Nabaru. I work for a police in our organization. I'm a HR officer. My expectations are high. I want to learn more about feedback, both in personal and official work. Learn more about negative and positive feedback. So I'm looking forward to learn about so many things today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Get to learn many things, have a curious mind, explore the possibility of negative, positive feedback, why feedback is important, when feedback should be given. Very important. Okay. Thank you, Christine. Collins, Doreen, or Carol? You can unmute, please. Carol, Doreen, do you want to unmute your mics? Collins? Just want to also make sure that you're with us so that there is the possibility of taxing in the background. Are you there? There? Okay. I'm sure you'll unmute as we go. The thing is that because we're a small class, I'd like you to make it as interactive as we can. So that we're able to draw experiences from where we are, from where we come from. What are some of the things have worked for you? What are some of the things that you struggle with? So that really becomes a small little boutique, intimate class that we have this morning, and I'm sure other people will be joining. So when I call upon you, please feel free to unmute and share with us. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Carol, Doreen, Collins, going once. Yeah, Carol has unmuted. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Carol.
Nice to see you again, Catherine.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic because many of us struggle with feedback in our companies, even at personal level. And for me, I'm very expectant to see what rolls out for, especially when it comes to negative feedback and how we can use it to build our levels in our careers. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Carol. Welcome once again. Were you here in the other feedback session, that feedback webinar that we ran a couple of weeks ago, maybe like 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now?
Not really. I
Okay.
did, no, not really.
Okay, designing feedback. That was designing feedback today, the power of feedback. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, welcome. And then we'll intermarry those two, designing feedback, the power of feedback, why is it important at the workplace? What do we need to look out? Why is it important that we give feedback? And especially we want to dive deep into this era that we are in, the space of coronavirus. What has it showed us? How have we really been able to grapple with giving feedback to teams? Okay. Great. Anybody else? Collins or Doreen? Doreen, I've seen you've unmuted. Thank you. We can't hear you, Doreen. Great. So I will start off and ask you a question around the kind of conversations that we have in the office or even at family level, at societal level, and just listening and people, when we ask this question over and over again, why does bad news travel faster than good news? Why? Why are we so happy to extend bad news and to say, hey, did you hear what Dan did? He's in a lot of trouble. You know, instead of going to tell Dan, you're in trouble. I hear you're in trouble. I see you're in trouble. Can we talk and then we contain it here? Why? Why does bad news travel faster than good news? Is it culture? Is it our curious nature? Is it our inherent genes just to thrive in bad news? Why? Why is that so? Discussion. There's no right or wrong. None at all. Just want to set the pace for the discussion. Ida?
I think bad news travels faster because you don't have to really have the facts right. It's just what you've had is what you report. And like when you really have to say news with facts, you really have to get them, like say the truth, give every detail. But bad news is like the excitement that you don't even really have to have them. It's like gossip.
Like gossip, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to have the facts right.
Yeah. And it's juicy and it's nice and you can
Yes.
drive it in any shape, form, or size, you know.
And you don't have to be responsible for it.
And you don't have to be responsible for it till you're asked to be responsible for it. Eh?
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You know, you it's like a wildfire. You lit it and then you let it go and you move away from the wildfire, isn't it? And it goes. By the time it reaches, then it's reached very, very deeply. Someone else? Bad news traveling. Bad news traveling. Christine? Yes, Christine or Carol? Anyone? Bad news.
I think it is just the human nature. The curiosity is just there. It's the human nature to just talk and pass a message. As Ida said, it is that passing a message without being responsible.
Without being responsible.
Yes.
True. Yeah, very true. Without being responsible, you know, what do we call it in Kenya nowadays? Mene.
Gossip.
Gossip, yeah, that one, you know, and the trolling on Twitter or on social media. If someone, a celebrity or a personality, a politician says anything and we don't like it, we troll it and take it to the next level. And statistics show, research has shown that Kenya, we can be extremely bullish on social media. You know, even when I say just good morning as Catherine, people want to interpret it differently, isn't it? I just meant, let me just say good morning to people nicely. You know, I start the day nicely, but my good morning is interpreted as if it's something else and people just blow it out of proportion. You know, the president came out of social media platforms. Are you aware? He was on, I think he couldn't handle it as an individual. Yeah, I think he was only left with with the State House official pages. So he was just like, maybe this is going to kill me. You know, my heart needs to stay strong and stuff like that. So it's real when you see, and of course, other people also hijack other people's the other people's social media handles, and they want to get ransom out of it, and they hold them at ransom, and they or other people also make pseudonyms out of that. If I'm Catherine Wamwangi, they add something else and they pretend that is it, and they put everything that they ever wanted to put over there, and it's extremely painful. The other day I was on a webinar where we were talking about branding, proper branding of you in your career and in your space. And it was branding using LinkedIn, and someone said my LinkedIn handle was hijacked, and I took a long time, and LinkedIn was not listening, but finally she was able to put it right. And she's someone who's very authoritative in HR, so it was very difficult for her. I don't know whether someone a couple of like last year but one, there was an app that was made. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember the name of the app, but someone put up an app and said, get feedback, get feedback from people, who you are as a person, and you go in and sign in, and people would give you feedback. Maybe we've interacted with you guys know, let's call this our company ABC Limited, and I am one of the let's say I'll be the strategy manager or something like that, or business development. And of course, we all know each other. Some people will give me, and it was anonymous feedback. It was actually anonymous feedback. So what kind of a person is Catherine? And you want to hear the feedback that people give you, and it's anonymous. I'll never get to know whether it's Collins who gave it to me, whether it's Doreen who gave it to me, whether it's Dan who gave it to me. It was a completely anonymous. Man, people, I think there was even people who committed one or two people committed suicide until that app had to be shut down. It was someone from Saudi Arabia who had actually created it. Good intention, get feedback in terms of how people view you, and then you take stock whether that's how people really view you. But some people could not just take feedback, and of course some people were objective. Catherine, you need to improve in this area. Catherine, you come across like this. These are some of the things that you do well, and these are some of the things that you as an individual need to look into. And of course, some people really put nasty things for others. This is the time to get even. I will, because I have an opportunity to do it, sasa ndio utaona. We will make sure that whatever. So how we present ourselves as individuals, and feedback needs a real point of maturity for people to be able to give it and for people to receive it. Maturity does not mean that it's not in age. It's not in age. It's more of emotional intelligence, us knowing that this is going to happen. Feedback is important because we'll work with all sorts of people at the workplace. We'll work with the millennials or the Z generation now as they've come in, people who are young and people who are 70 years old. But how do they receive feedback? It's over many years of trying and listening and being there in the moment, being present, being really ready to receive it. So it's not, even if you're 70, we know people who are 70 who will never receive feedback positively, or who will never give you feedback. And there are people who are 25 years and they will be able to give it to you. And just before I present my slides, I would like to give you a story, a real story that happened this week. And for my sixth sense, for my sixth sense to hit in, and for me to take up a very junior responsibility in the organization, I must have seen something. So we were welcoming new interns in the organization, and we have a fantastic internship program, maybe the best that there was ever created in the world anyway. But that said, I don't get involved in recruitment for interns, but I get to meet them. You know, they've come to the organization, they come to meet me, or they come to meet the rest of the team, the HR team, the senior team, and they will come and we'll ask them what do you expect to learn, you know, things like that. And I'm hoping that at the background level of whatever it is, even if you're coming for internship, because internship at our place of work is real work. We give you real work. We don't expect you to file or take paperwork from one floor to the other. It's real work that you're going to get. So it's an exciting opportunity. So as I was just looking at the org chart, and the new interns, I was very curious, especially in this day and age of COVID. I took an extra eye to look at the CVs. So I was very happy to see lady engineers, very, very happy. You know, the way, you know, you want to balance your teams. I'm thinking, oh, these girls have done engineering. Well done, you know. In fact, one was called Catherine. So I was just like, my namesake is coming. So I looked through and whatever. So I looked at one, and one was in a permanent job. And in a permanent job, I thought, why are they coming back for internship? They should be looking for a job. And of course, I gave it the benefit of doubt that their jobs are few and far between, especially good jobs. They might whatever. And this internship is well paying. You get to work for a good brand and stuff like that. But I just decided, okay, fine, let me pick this CV. And I looked through it and I looked through it. And he had been picked, which is fine. I don't go against those decisions. So I called, I know the HR of that company that guy was working for. So I called and I said, hi, how you doing? You know, the way we do pragmatic background checks, I hope that's what you do. It's not just the people who have been put on the CV that you pick, but you go over the extra mile to make sure that the people you're bringing in are genuine. They're the people who you want in your organization and things like that. So I called my friend and we had a chit chat. How you doing? How's business? How's whatever? And I said, well, I see this guy. Do you know him? XYZ. He said, yeah, he worked with us and he's asked for an opportunity with us. Why did he leave your organization? Given that whatever. And of course, there was some issues behind his leaving, you know, integrity issues. So I called this candidate and I said, hi, how you doing? I see that you've been picked to come and join us. And could you tell me why you left XYZ company? And they did not match. And when I was having that discussion with my counterpart HR, let's call them that, we said, would you give him another chance? He said he's a real good worker, but he has cunning tendencies and integrity tendencies. We hope that he has learned from there. You get what I mean? So would you give this guy a job or not? Knowing that I called him and he gave me, and I told him I have picked things around your CV, what you're telling me, there's a mismatch, but because the other party is not here to defend you and you're not here to whatever, it's not accusation. What have you learned out of that? Unfortunately, he was not very forthright. And I went to give him feedback. But what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you give him the job? He's waiting actually for me on Monday to call him. Help me. Should I give him the job or should I just let it slide and say, I gave you an opportunity to explain yourself around what you did in that other company. What have you learned out of it? What would you do differently? He wasn't too whatever. What would you do? Would you give him the job? Feedback? These are real life scenarios I have. Nisaidieni tafadhali. Carol?
Okay, may I try? Putting myself in your shoe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give him a job.
Okay.
The fact that you called him and asked him for an honest, feedback on what he has learned, and it wasn't an accusation. If he was open and say what he's learned and how, because he's a good worker. I remembered you said when you called the HR on the other side, they said they are good worker. So the fact that he's a good worker, yes, but the honesty part of it, for me, is a question mark. Because here you are, you're telling me there's no blame game, there is no accusation, you know, there must be something I learned out of my previous job. And still I'm not open. It is still the question of honesty. Yes, so I wouldn't. If he was open and tell you, yeah, I did a mistake, I've seen where I went wrong, I'm ready to correct, and I'm willing to be mentored by you with honesty, that now that you know my weaknesses or my areas of growth, I would take him and work with him. Yeah.
Someone else? Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Christine, Collins, Doreen, Ida, Dan, your thought around it? Giving feedback in this situation? Ida?
If I were in your shoe, even me personally, I would not give that person a chance, because you went out of your way, got the information, and tried to give that person a chance to explain themselves. And honesty is a big thing when it comes to relations, even if it's work relations. Because if you can't be honest, if somebody asks you genuinely, and at the back of your mind, you're already aware that he or she has gotten some information, and you're not willing to defend yourself, not against an accusation, just to clear your name, then it seems that is not a very honest person.
Okay, someone else? Christine, anybody else? Okay, so I can tell you guys that I put on a lot of empathetic heart, especially for people starting out their careers, because we've all been successful because of one person or the other. And feedback for me is one of the key drivers in my department. So even when I picked the phone, I told him, this does not disqualify your candidature in this process. So I made him at ease. I told him, whatever it is, what have you learned? What can you tell me about it? What went wrong? You know, and I made sure that he didn't need to feel that there was any pressure or I was at a bigger space than him. You get what I mean? Like I am the final decision maker. I even told him I'm not the final decision maker. It's the department, because it's the one that is recruiting. And all along, I'd actually not gone back to the line manager he will be working in to tell him this is what I have found. I actually took a day to marinate and to see what it is, because I'm thinking you have an opportunity to redeem yourself around honesty and integrity issues. What have you learned? And he's been out there for 1 year. So it means that he's taken a beating. He's doing some little contract jobs here and there. You can see that now he has a family, everything that you guys know about really wanting a job and whatever it is. And I would never have picked it up if he was a fresh, maybe graduate from school. You get what I mean? I would just have said, hi, you, and whatever. But that really got me, whatever. So yesterday, the fact that and I had told the other HR, I am actually going to give him a chance. If he comes and says, and I will take it up to mentor him and to coach him. As Catherine, I will take him under my wing and say, how is it going for you? Do you need help? How is it? Whatever. Because again, you need an accountability partner in these kind of issues. But the fact that I gave him an opportunity and he refused to take that opportunity, I also feel that he's not the right person for the organization. There's no whatever, it's I know it's difficult, it's shameful to come and say, I'm sorry, this happened, this is what I have learned. And he even never made amends to the person that he had integrity issues with. You get what I mean? So I think that is it keeps coming up for him. It keeps coming up for him. So definitely on Monday, I'll call him and say, we've evaluated I have seen whatever way it is, the fact that you never even made amends, whether it's true or not, whether you are denying it, that leaves still a gap. And that gap continues to grow. So you've come here, you've left that gap, and you still have not made amends. Had you made amends on that other side and come and said, well, okay, I've learned, it was just a bad thing and whatever, I still feel bad, whatever it is, I would have taken him. But the fact that he's denying and he's not made amends, I just think that he's not a good fit, you know, and he loses just an opportunity just like that, unfortunately, you know. So that's why we keep on saying, how do you receive feedback? How are you ready for feedback even when someone does not know you, you know? And how do you internalize it? Don't be too quick to be so defensive. Take a chill pill. In fact, I wish I had told me, let me think about it and I'll come back to you. And I told him, this will forever be questionable. You know, if someone wants to keep calling you, you have to come clean, because he told me I left for family reasons. In fact, that HR told me, I told him, because you are going to get fired, I asked you to resign. So he resigned. When I asked him, why did you leave? He said, oh, he had family reasons and stuff like that. And since I know people resign for personal reasons, to go and sort out family issues and stuff like that, we cannot. But if you are clear enough, or you ask me, Catherine, you left for family reasons, I can say, well, I had a terminally ill patient at home, XYZ, whatever relations we have, I had to go out looking for them. Or I went back to school and whatever. And I asked him, so if you are such a good employee at that place, why didn't they give you a sabbatical? You know, if I come and say, well, I need 3 months to go and sort out my issues, I would rather you give me, instead of me becoming unproductive at the place of work, you hold that fort for me if you really value me, and I come back. We all agree, isn't it? But anyway, he missed the opportunity. So I'll give him feedback on Monday. So we all agree we don't give him the job. We all agree we don't give him the job.
Please don't give him the job.
I told him,
yes.
Nitamwambia, your case was decided by 10 people. Very people that I met over the weekend, and I discussed your case, and ulikataliwa na watu 10. So my conscience is clear. Anyway, so you see how feedback it is. And I'm sure you can relate with that, with such cases at the workplace, okay? So allow me to start sharing my screen. The power of feedback. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So there we go. The power of feedback. The power, you know, just what does power mean? Someone? English dictionary? Wikipedia? What does power mean? Anything? Power? Any? Power. I mean power. What does power mean? Simple definition of power. Simple definition of power.
Okay, let me try. It's the ability to do something,
The ability
or
to do
act
something.
on in a particular way. Yeah.
Ability to do something, act in a particular way. Yeah. Someone else? Power?
Can I try?
Mm-hmm.
It's the ability to control people or even situations.
Mm-hmm. Ability to control events or situations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Someone else? Anybody else? Yeah. Power?
I
Christine?
think it's the ability to influence people behavior, or to influence. It's the ability to influence.
Ability to influence, having and not using it negatively, using it positively. You know, you have the authority, you've been bestowed this responsibility, you have the final say in this area, you know, and you are using it because you have the responsibility, you have the knowledge, you have the know-how, you have the experience, and you have the skill, isn't it? So you have the power to run this department. And that means that you're working together with other people, but you are the one who has the final responsibility in what happens in this whatever. And when we say, because power has been used over time in a negative way, then we think, oh, these politicians have power and they will kill us and they will steal our money, isn't it? That's all we think about, you know. And because it's been used, and African leaders have used it to self enrich themselves, sometimes we look at power in a very negative way. But when you use power in a positive way, the way it's supposed to be used, then it becomes very beneficial and productive in your workplace. But if you use it negatively, it becomes very counterproductive. You know, yeah, after all, they have the final power. They'll sack me, you know, HR, you know, they'll just sack me. They're bad. They won't listen and stuff like that. So how do we negate that over many years of what we know about power? But as we have said, it's, yeah, you have the authority, but use it positively so that people can be able to understand where we are coming from. So the power of feedback, you know, and those are emotions, you know, emojis, happy, sad, angry, you know, pensive. I don't know what it is, you know. What's going to happen today? They'll call me tomorrow and tell me that the job is gone. How, I'm sure you know one or two people, relatives, friends, colleagues, you know, or former colleagues where you used to work, who have lost their jobs because of this global pandemic, isn't it? Or we don't know anyone. Me, every week I get like 10 calls. Catherine, I'm looking for a job. Catherine, things are very bad. You know, how do I reinvent myself? I'm an entrepreneur. It's going very bad. Don't we know those? Hmm? We do, yeah? And I'm sure we can, whatever. It's a difficult time. The other one is either people going on half pay or unpaid leave, all those things. I think the best place to work right now, and I'm happy that we have someone who works in the government sector, in the civil society, in the civil world, is civil government, is you're assured of your salaries and benefits, isn't it? Who says works for the judiciary? It's the best time to whatever. I have lots of friends who work there, and we are just laughing and saying, oh, you guys are so lucky. Salaries are assured. There's been no pay cuts. There's no unpaid leave. In fact, if anything, you guys were told that if you're 50, please don't come to the office. Is that true? The president said, you know, if you have any underlying issues, please don't come. Is that true? Was it Christine or was it Ida?
It's me. It's true,
Yeah.
yes. Huh?
Yeah.
But you see, we don't live in oblivion. We are in this society.
Yeah.
So even as we are praying that thing to end, because you never know.
It's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
never
never know. It's true. Yeah. But you're in a better, safer space. You can be able to plan a little, you know, much more without, there's a bit of certainty compared to people in the private sector and then the smaller SMEs and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, true. So it's much better. So what are we doing in this day and age when things are assured for me? Am I thinking anything differently? You know, when I have assurance, or it's just, you know, it's work as usual, you know, after all, it's they will pay me and stuff like that. What extra things are we putting in place? You know, that's what the people who have lost jobs or companies who are struggling with cash flow are thinking over their strategy over and over again. But us people who are assured, like the people who work for the government, what are we doing differently? Teachers are assured who work for the government are assured of salaries, or teachers who work in private schools. There's a big gap in terms of what it is right now. So the balance of how we think, we should all think in the same. If we are here now and this is what's happening to us, we are at a better place. What am I going to do differently? That's what I'm challenging people. What am I going to do differently for this business? What am I going to do differently as an individual? So I've lost my job. I'm a bit down right now. how am I going to reinvent myself during these COVID times? It's much more difficult. But what am I doing? How am I communicating to my teams and stuff like that? So last week, my vicar called me, and my church also has a primary school, a kindergarten and a primary school, and say, Catherine, you know, we need to discuss, and would like to call a couple of people to think through this situation of to help the board think through the school situation. You know, we can't continue paying, and it's becoming increasingly difficult. The parents are not paying and stuff like that. You know, so are we sending the people in unpaid leave? Is it one of the schools that is going to fizzle out and never come back? It's difficult when you're asked to plug into those discussions. It's painful, it's difficult, but decisions have to be made. So, and how are you going to give feedback to those people? So feedback is extremely important. Communication is actually so key during this time of COVID. So today's webinar, it's what we have all said, our expectations. I'm happy that we can look through them, and it's aligning to what we hope to take away. So that's the outline. What is feedback, power of feedback, types of feedback, steps for giving feedback, tips for giving feedback, steps for receiving feedback, tips for receiving feedback. That I need maybe for Monday. Barriers for giving feedback, what to do with feedback. So I've been given feedback, you know, like that guy, maybe when I give it to him on Monday. So how is he going to do with it? What is he going to do with that feedback when I give him? I'll also extend an olive branch and say, if you'd like me to coach you or to mentor you, you know, I'm happy. Or if one of you would want to take him up as one of your coach or mentee, please hit me up and let me know. And principles for giving effective feedback. Okay, so what is feedback? How would you define feedback? What is feedback? What is feedback? Nataka upesi ya kwenda mbio mbaya, as my children tell me, mami fanya mbio mbaya. And mbio mbaya, I keep getting tripped and getting hurt, and I tell them, no, this is not good. What is feedback? Anyone? Feedback? Feedback, guys. How would you define feedback? Anything that comes to mind? Anything? Or we just we know that we know the name, but we cannot put it in sequence. Anyone? Definition of feedback?
It's information returned after a result.
Return of information, very true. Return of information about a result or returned portion of a process. Yeah, very true. Someone else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Feedback? Return of information, very true. Okay. Feedback is about listening actively, taking the time to analyze, and when thinking of the best possible situation to perform better. It provides positive criticism and allows to see what everyone can change and improve their focus and results. You know, listening attentively. How many of us are guilty of finishing people's sentences? I'm one of them. I am. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Very annoying. Anybody else? Thank you, Carol. Anybody else?
I also do sometimes.
You do sometimes, isn't it?
Especially
Hey.
when you feel they are not doing it faster the way you want it, and
I
maybe
know
not.
you can. I can give you high five either. I mean, all of you, I can give you high five. We are so as predisposed to finishing people's sentences, and it's the most annoying thing. You know, uh, you come, you know exactly what they want. Talk quickly. I have the solution. I'll give it to you. Listen to it. Go running, isn't it? Yeah. And you can't blame yourself. It's because it's so rushed at the workplace. It's so rushed in the society. You want to get over and done with it and move on to the next thing. So I don't blame anybody, until my friend one day told me, listen to yourself. You finish my sentences and I don't like it. I took a step back and I said, hi, yeah, kumbe, and so it's I have to actively, and I have to make a deliberate effort not to finish people's sentences and finish. And I understand it's because they're not talking fast enough. You want to finish and you want to move on, and you don't intend to cause any harm or discomfort in those conversations. You're just having a conversation. It's intertwined. It's natural. You're having coffee with your friend at your favorite restaurant, and you're just, or they come home and you're in the kitchen, you're putting up your best meal or you're baking, and you're just going around and doing that. So I totally agree. But attentive listening is very, very key for us to be able to get the feedback, marinate in it, and be able to give it out. Okay. So what is the importance of feedback at the workplace? Why is feedback so important at the workplace? And and most of the time the feedback is given by who? Let's start there. Who's quick to give us feedback?
Most of the time, feedback is given by the line managers, especially during the appraisals. But it's a two-way, because the employee has also given feedback. So
Most of the time.
Yeah.
And we've made it like that, isn't it? But when you think about it, is it how it's supposed to be?
No.
I like what you have said, Caro. It's a two-way traffic. Let me give you feedback. But again, you remember what I said? The power of giving feedback and my ability to think, huyu ndo anasemanga hata hawezi ongeleshwa, isn't it? So we become so in tuned in terms of, okay, fine, you're the one who will say whatever it is here. We have nothing to say. You say it. You are the law, jury, and judge. You go with it. You get what I mean? And you miss the bigger opportunity of people having that conversation of, allow me also to say something, because you've already come and say, you're all late. The reports are late. There is nothing working here. And then you disappear, you go to your office. What have you left people with? A real, whatever, salt taste in their mouth. So listen, again, listening, giving feedback. How do you perceive yourself? And it's a skill that managers have to learn. So what's okay? So knowing that then gives us an opportunity to go back and listen at the workplace and also observe. I would like you just this week, to make a deliberate effort and decision to check how people communicate with each other in the office. Especially the ones who have strained relationships, the ones who have undercurrents, they don't say, they want to say, but they don't want to say. Leave the ones who have healthy relationships, because they can come and say, I'll bang the table. I don't care. This is what I want done. I believe I am right. We can agree to disagree, because we have people like that. And then after that, you meet me at the canteen. I'll buy you lunch today. Wouldn't you love such a relationship where you can, in terms of work, we can still have that a disagreement, but it's because it's work related. But it does not come to seeing who Catherine is in that front and say, I'll meet you at the canteen at 1. We'll have lunch together. Lunch is on me today. You get what I mean? And when we go to have lunch, iyo imesaulika, that was what it was. we agreed on that project. We might have felt bad in the heart, but we have whatever. I have 2 people like that in my South Africa office. Sometimes I think they will gouge out each other's eyes, literally. They have no whatever, but I'm telling you, they're best of friends. When the barbecue is called, they will be the ones making the barbecue and the meat. But when in whatever, you just wonder, really, is this how you want to work? Is it healthy? I keep asking them, is this healthy? Yeah, but sometimes he doesn't listen. I have to whatever. He wants to put work on me and whatever, but they've learned a space and they work very well. They're almost the same age. One is a bit older, not more than 5 years within themselves, or 6 or something like that. But they've learned a space of working. And it's only, but when they come to other teams, they are very whatever. But these 2 have a unique way of working, and they will always go out for a cigarette together, and they will go out for lunch together. Anyway, so, but that's very unique, isn't it? Sometimes, because then our culture does not allow us to have that, we perceive the person in power, especially in authority, especially if they are older than us, then we are very respectful as a Kenyan culture and as an African culture, compared to other Western cultures where they will just blow it up and they really don't care much about what they left, the wind that they left behind. Anybody who can relate with that? I like to paint a scenario, then I ask, is anybody who can relate with that? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Would you like to be in such a situation? Talk to me, guys, so that I'm not the only one talking all the time. Anyone? Ida, I can see you've unmuted.
I personally think that just the same way in our personal relationships, you find what works and what doesn't work. It may be a very bad one if you are not in the same page. I may think the banging is working and you take it the other way. And that comes to what you did, you explained in your explanation on what feedback is. It is positive criticism. So probably for them, they've really understood that my banging doesn't mean I don't agree. My banging is just a way to tell you, can you wake up?
Yeah, true.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they've come to that understanding. But you cannot apply it to every other person you meet.
It's true.
Till you create
some people have a
that
much more
atmosphere where you understand now we can bang and then go take coffee.
Yeah.
You may
Yeah.
bang and never take coffee if you find the other person is not very receptive. So it all depends. The way we are told, even management style depends on the situation.
Exactly. It's very dicey. We need to understand personalities at the workplace, when to give feedback, when not to give feedback. We need to understand, who is Ida? When is her best time? When is she in her best element? Is it in the morning? Is it mid-morning? Is it in the afternoon? Is it late at night? Now that people are working remotely, we see all sorts of people. Morning, I will try and look for someone. They're not available. Next week, I look for them in the morning. They're not available. In the evening, I look for them and they are available. Then I start forming the pattern. You get what I mean? If we all took time to understand everybody, because that's the nature of human beings, for us to be able to interact. The only thing that comes between us and the other person in how we relate is our ego. Agree? And for us to understand the other person, am I ready to cede my ego? It comes first with maturity, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. Those 3 things. If you don't take anything out of this webinar today, my dear friends, ego, and what comes for you to understand ego: self-awareness, maturity, and emotional intelligence. And remember, maturity is not about age. It's just about being able to be true to myself and to understand the kind of space that I'm in at that time. So what's the importance of feedback at the workplace? Anyone? Feedback at the workplace? Welcome everybody else who has joined this webinar. We are growing in number. We are 15 of us now. Importance of feedback at the workplace? Someone please tell me.
I think it helps identify areas of growth, rather maybe areas of development. That is if it's positive, what is it called? No, is it no? Positive critic. Yeah, because again, it's how we take it. If it's a critic, do we take it to build us or to destroy us? Yeah. So yeah, it helps in identifying those areas. If it's a good feedback, if it's positive feedback, then it helps us identify the areas that are doing well and that we just need to keep up.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Gives us an opportunity to look at the bigger picture in the organization. What is working for us? What do we need to keep doing to improve what we already have? And what gaps are there to be filled? Are we going to take it through? Is it means that we go through training, some to get some of the skills, and also at the same time does also mean that informs the kind of culture that we have. Do we start wanting to look at our culture? Very true. Someone else, importance of feedback at the workplace. I'll say one of them, creating healthy relationships. Someone can expound on that. What does that mean?
Can I try?
Yes, please.
I think it creates a healthy relationship by giving a conducive atmosphere where I can critically or positively criticize what you do, so that I know my standing with you. If at all I don't like the way your tone when you speak, then I have that channel to just tell you, oh, no, the way you put your message across, as much as it is the true thing, but the way it comes out, then it also gives you a chance to look into yourself and say, how can I better it?
Exactly.
So that next time you don't have conflicts.
Yeah,
so it
true.
creates healthy relations.
I love that. Yeah. You know, even if you are the head of department, the way you say things, you need to say things in a diplomatic way, no matter how difficult it is. You get what I mean? Don't make the other person look as if they don't know what they are doing. And you throw your words up there. And even if they are truthful, but kindness costs you nothing. The way you approach the person. Good morning, Catherine. How you doing? How was your weekend? Anything that you need to know and whatever. Is it a good time for me to give you this feedback and whatever? I'm not saying that you become sissy, but you become factual with kindness around it. I keep on saying, put yourself in the other person's shoes. How would you like to be given feedback? How would you like to be spoken to? You know, and I think this country woke up one day when we had the case of the former deputy CJ pinching someone's nose at the mall. That's the only time then we saw how bad we were as people who had more power than the lesser of us. And in all cadres of staff, you know, whether it is the makanga in the tout in the matatu, whether it's the watchman, the security guy at the door, whether it's our house helps, whether it's our gardeners, anybody beneath you, whether it's the waiter, we just used to do whatever. So that maybe was a wake-up call for us as a country to be able to know how we treat others, you know, because then it opened our eyes. Maybe it was good because it happened, you know, and now we were able to go and, you know, say good morning, you know, when you want whatever. Sometimes, of course, they can be overbearing and they know, but enough, it makes you be more, you know, you think through. If I don't want to, I know they are crossing the line with me here, and I know they are wrong, but allow me to reason with them because they're also human beings. You get what I mean? So it gives us an opportunity for us to be able to interrogate ourselves and to retrospect as a society. How am I treating people who are beneath me? And think of, if I was in their shoes, how would I like to be treated? You get what I mean? So that is important. Of course, there's need to be firmness, but there's also need to be kindness for us to be able to work together. And look at when you go to a restaurant and you treat the waiter well, good morning, and you read their name. Hi, good morning, Catherine. How has been your day? Look at the kind of service you will get. Compared, need party a menu. The table need to be dusted. Your sponge text, it doesn't smell fresh. You know, there's a way of you can whatever you can be able to have a conversation with them, and they feel maybe they've had a hard day, they've had a long day, but it costs you nothing to be kind here. So thank you. That's a very important one. Something else, importance of feedback at the workplace. Someone else, please. Tell me about increasing our bottom line. How does feedback increase our bottom line, whether we're in the service industry, production industry, whether we provide a service as a government? What does it do? Nothing. Someone take that up. I've given something for us to discuss. How does it improve our bottom line? What does it do? Collins, Doreen, anybody? Bottom line? Elizabeth, Situma, anything about feedback at the workplace and how it improves our bottom line? Importance of feedback? Okay. Anyone would think through it? So I believe that when you get feedback, you become more motivated in a way that it helps you relate with the kind of role that you hold, the responsibility that you hold. You look at the objectives that you're supposed to be meeting. You are happy to work on your KPIs. If you meet them, everyone worked around their KPIs and with motivation. What happens? Of course, we know that our bottom line is going to improve. We want to be ahead of competition. So how do we, whatever? When I receive feedback, how I'm doing, feedback in my attitude, and it's something that is actually meant to build me, you will see that there is power of growth in there, in the organization. And that's what we want to do. You know, I work here, we are returning profits, our products are moving, our services are being sought after, and in the end, we are able to make sure that we earn salaries, we earn bonuses, the benefits are great, and people are able to know that this is a good brand to work for. Anything else? Importance of feedback at the workplace and how it benefits the workplace? Feedback? Anybody else? And there could be many other aspects of whatever. So this is feedback, you know, where we said, so the value chain, how do we make sure that we align that to the people that we are giving feedback? And feedback is anywhere, at the workplace, in the society, at your homes. So I hope that this is also going to give you some bit of you'll get reflection around what needs to be done. So feedback with a star comes in many forms and must be understood. What do we mean by understanding? Understanding means that the language, even the one we speak with, there's no jargon that is there that I would not understand. It must be understood. There is no doubt that what I have said has been understood and it has been correctly interpreted. So the receiver, so we first speech communication starts here. So I'm the speaker, you know, I talk and we speak, and the message is whatever is communicated. What am I communicating? What do I want to communicate? What do I want the other person to know? means by which the message is communicated. And there are many channels of communication, isn't it? This is one of them. And I can pick a phone, I can send an email, I can make a phone call, I can send a letter, I can send a report. So there are many ways of communication. How do we like to communicate at the workplace, or which is your most preferred channel of communication as an individual? Anyone? Majority of the time we use what? But what is your preferred channel of communication? And have you told your team this is how you would like communication to come to you? Or it depends with the kind of message?
I think it depends on the feedback that you're giving, or the information that you're passing. Because sometimes for me, I find it works faster when I'm doing verbal communication, yeah. But again, it can swing on a very negative side, because somebody can use it against you by the way they perceive on what you talked about. So again, I'm learning with time that sometimes it's also good, maybe when I do verbal, I follow it up with written communication and indicate that following my verbal explanation to you, this and this is what we agreed. That has saved me a little bit of hassle. Before I was really, it was taking a tall order where you're misquoted, misunderstood. Yeah. But the fastest way for me, what I found working best is verbal. It's faster.
Yeah.
It's clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, true. You can see the face-to-face verbal communication. I can see the other person's reaction. I can see the other person's demeanor. I like that, and then if it's something important, I'll say a recap of our discussion. This is what we've agreed. These are the action points, and this needs to be done by this set date. So I agree. Yeah. So very important. The channel that we use must be one that accommodates everybody, and everybody feels involved and feels that it has been used appropriately, and following it up with documentation if that needs to be done. And many of the times is that that needs to be emphasized in organizations. I will have a discussion at the meeting and someone will take minutes so that we're able to move it to the next stage. Yeah, very, very true. But sometimes it's so rough and nobody ever talks to you. All they do is type, send it. Type, send it. Take some time and go to that department and say, I'm here and I would like us to discuss. People really like that face-to-face interaction. And that is one of the things that every time we find we are looking for how to plug into this remote working, is people are saying we miss the human interaction. We miss the face-to-face meetings, the interpersonal relationships. So I keep on saying, put on your video once in a while. Let's see your beautiful and handsome faces. It's not the same, but at least there is we can be able to see how it is, but you can only see the upper part of me. You can see people twitching their legs at a meeting. You can see people standing differently, coming forward, looking backwards. I mean, there is a lot to learn around feedback and the channels of feedback and how we really use that. So, and then after that, means of communication, how we communicate and writing. Then write kindly, write with simply, write with precision, and be clear, and let the other person be able to receive and understand what you have said. Don't write in capitals, don't write in red. I mean, it's unnecessary. Then the listener, the receiver of the communicated message, do they understand what we are saying? And then feedback comes in many forms and must be understood. So that's where it is, the knacks of it all around. So there's been the speaker, there's been the message, we've used the correct channel, the listener has received the message. Then how do we make sure that the feedback that comes back to the speaker or to the person who sent the message is appropriate, and they will feel that they have actually communicated. And then the interference, anything impeding the communication or the message, what is the hindrance? And people in this webinar, we said, what would hinder me from putting my point across? How do I want to receive the feedback? How do I get back the negative feedback? How do I relay negative feedback to the other person? And the time and the place of occurrence. We keep on saying, there's a nice saying that we like in feedback, and especially in coaching, praise in public and reprimand in private. Why is that important? Why is that important? Praise in public, reprimand in private. And many of the times is when we do, sometimes we do the opposite, don't we?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think
Mm.
we all want to feel good at all times and not to be, it's just like a child. Even if you reprimand a child amongst the other siblings, it hurts more. It hurts more because first of all, the others will perceive him differently. They may even perceive him different from what you yourself you are trying to put across. So it is better just praise them on the good thing they've done. But now on the side, tell them this one you need to handle this way. They would have gotten a good positive thing on the side, so they'll be ready to take the reprimand.
Yeah, true. Very, very, very true. That we reprimand, choose how you do it. If it's one person, I see people in meetings and they point at the other side of the boardroom. Catherine, you did not do that. And everybody just wondering, this leader. You remember where we said power? We do that because we want to feel that our power, our presence, I'm the one in control. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help the team. It doesn't help you moving forward. It doesn't make you successful, because I keep on saying it's your people who will make you successful. And that leads on how you lead them as individuals. When you lead people with kindness and with empathy, then everything else falls into place. We only want two leaders now, and I've said it in many webinars, and I will not stop saying it. The 21st century leader needs to be vulnerable and needs to have humility. Two traits for them to be able to lead their teams and articulate their vision so that people can follow it. Okay? Yeah. So very important. Yeah. Why we need to make sure that we reprimand in private, so that people still hold their dignity and they don't feel that they have been mulliqued in the public, and that's not what they wanted. Yeah. So consider this. Does this sound familiar? Just very two interesting scenarios that we whatever. Aaron, a sales executive, hands in a report to his area sales manager and waits for a month without receiving any response or reaction. He wonders what happened. Did I do something wrong? Does that sound familiar? At the workplace, where you hand in work and nobody gives you feedback? How does it make you feel? And then they were actually following up on the report. They were, they were waiting for the report. And then when you hand it in, no feedback. How do you feel?
Can I try?
Mm-hmm.
It feels very, and you feel you're not motivated. That non-recognized atmosphere. I've been a victim, and several of my colleagues, where you worked so hard over the year, and it's the end of the year meeting or luncheon, and the boss come out and recognizes everybody and leave your section. And yet you are actually the drive to what was happening that day, culmination of everything. While you may not take it personal, because of the relationship also at workplace you share with your director, where you may not take it personal, because again, there are levels of relationships at workplace, but it feels everybody looks back and they look at one another. We thought you're the one who was doing this.
I know.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
doesn't feel very good. It only takes high emotional intelligence, as you said earlier, to go above it and know that sometimes it doesn't have to be, but it doesn't over very well.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, you don't take it personally, but you become demotivated, and you just think, really, I've put in all the hard work and nobody recognizes it. People love affirmation. That's the one thing. People want autonomy at the workplace, and they want affirmation. You've done a good job. Well done. This imeteleza kidogo. Let's see what we can do. And when you tell someone, when something is not going right, guys, let me tell you, you must be able to offer a solution. This didn't go wrong. This didn't go right. Please go and correct it. Compared to this did not go right, can we really look at what we could have done better? In fact, go over and above and say, what we take it together. We are a department compared to what you would have done better. Let me tell you, when you say sorry to someone, I'm sorry if it hurt you. I'm sorry that it hurt you. This week again, homework number 2, when we next meet, when someone says, I'm sorry if, it means that anyway, you are wrong, but since you are upset, I will tell you sorry after all. I'm sorry if it hurt you. You are still not sorry enough. I'm sorry that it hurt you. Those two words are completely different in situations of apology. And many a times is when I listen to that and I take note, when you have all those disciplinary processes and people not working together and whatever, please check whether they are using if or that. And I come back to that person and say, did you realize, or is just using the wrong adjective in that scenario? And when people start thinking about it, even at home, think about how you say, okay, I'm sorry that it hurt you. I'm sorry if I hurt you. If yeah, very different. And when you do feedback, because I do it all the time, and it's heavy in terms of it's heavy in the coaching space. All these things that you have to be very alive to. So next time, okay, great. So it makes you. Let's look at another example. Maria is a business analyst, received praise from her manager post her annual appraisal. Great job. Keep up the good work. Maria wonders, what is that I am doing well? I'm sure I want to know so that I can continue to do well. Have you faced a familiar whatever? Oh, you're doing well, without any explanation. How does it make you feel? Anybody?
Can I try?
Yeah.
It makes me feel confused because you don't know like what you're doing well and what you're not doing well. So it makes you feel like, okay, I'm doing well, but there's a but still there.
Yeah, there's a but still there because there's no in-depth discussion. Someone just wants to piga, panel beat and push you to the next whatever. There's no in-depth. Catherine, your report writing is superb. The way you articulate things in your reports, everybody is able to understand. Please keep it up. In fact, if anything, we would like you to be the champion of report writing in this department. You think, aha, it's recognized. And then you come and say, I have put a lot of effort, I enjoy it, and I'm ready to take up the role. You get what I mean? But when someone just says, it means that they didn't take time to have this meeting with you. They're just looking at, it's something that I need to do. I need to get it out of the way and please you and go. So you are just in a aha moment. Okay, fine. Yeah, they recognize my work. But after that, there's nothing. So how am I going to improve? Yeah. So thank you, Doreen. Anybody else? Keep up the good work. Anybody else who feels like this? Or are you one of these people, again, because we're also trying to look at our own selves today. in terms of giving feedback. So no, it's just the other person. I said, let's put ourselves in these shoes. Do we say, oh, good job on the corridors and whatever? Even if it's a good job for making sure that all the water bottles were stored nicely in the place that they should be stored. They're not on the corridors waiting for people to trip, you know, let them know what's happening, okay? So even those small little things that you think that don't matter, please be extremely specific, like what I said, in terms of giving feedback, what is the explanation of giving feedback, so that it's wrapped up in a way that everybody will understand. So both scenarios are examples of workplace feedback. Let us understand what is workplace feedback. Workplace feedback is information we provide fellow employees and team members about their acts in order to help them meet individual, group, and organizational goals. And I asked, what's the importance of workplace feedback? And we looked at some of them here. So 2 types could be job performance, because you are there to do a job and do it well, and work-related behavior. You remember where I said about ego? If we all just, these 2 things, job performance and work-related behavior, we would never have any conflicts at the workplace. There will be fewer and fewer, which are brought maybe to HR to mediate or arbitrate or just find the way forward. And I hope that over time, we've learned to let line managers manage their teams, and very little work is brought to HR. Or we still bringing nani akujaza leave, who went on leave, who did not put in their leave days. You know, they come late. Let's go to HR now. It's coming out. It's going out of hand. What kind of things? We should be looking at the bigger picture, the strategy. COVID-19 is here. How are we going to go back to work? How is the business doing? How are we going to relate with our teams? What kind of communication are we giving? What kind of feedback do we expect from them? So the bigger picture, from a perspective of HR in strategic thinking, compared to everyday, who didn't do this, who went there, who did that. Yeah, I hope that is where we are at right now. Okay, so let's look at them. So feedback is that it's a focused art, direct towards the future, goal-oriented, multi-directional, supportive, and continuous. And it becomes an opportunity for creative problem solving, improving morale and engagement at the workplace, because we are very high in engagement processes right now, enhancing job performance, achieving targets on time, transparent work environment, healthy work relationships. You agree, all of us? And I'm sure we've been touching on all this. So we are just refreshing ourselves as individuals to say, how has it been? Am I seeing some of those blind spots? Do I see this as becoming an opportunity right now at our workplace? How do I enhance job performance? How do I improve morale and engagement? How do I make sure that feedback is a channel for creating healthy work relations? So feedback is the fuel that drives improved performance. Okay, so very, very important. Anything that anyone would like to tell us around there? Is it something that even when you have, when you're crafting policies around communication, these are some of the end objectives that you would like to achieve, you know, when they say, okay, fine, you're creating a new policy on communication or you're revising it. What is the objective? What opportunities do you see there? So these are some of the objectives you would like to put in your policies. And how do you also make sure that you're able to evaluate around them? It's all about attitude and behavior, how people present themselves at the workplace. Anybody? Anybody, the power of feedback around there? Okay, let's continue. Consider this feedback. So how would you feel? So this is a case that let's all read together, Stephanie. Your presentation always displays new ideas. Don't you love this kind of opening statement? However, you do not sound excited about the things you are talking about. Your voice sounds soft and there is no modulation at times. The feedback scores showed that your listeners think you sound bored with what you are presenting and makes them feel uninterested too. Could you work on making your enthusiasm more visible to your audience? What should Stephanie take away from this feedback? That is feedback. How has the supervisor first started giving her feedback? Your presentation always displays new ideas.
So the supervisor started with the positive. Huh? She has acknowledged that her presentations are good. But now the mode of the presentation is what brings problems. And if you cannot catch your listeners, then your message will not reach home, no matter how good it is.
Yeah.
So probably, yeah, probably she now needs to work on her presentation, like a personal presentation, and show some interest. Because you know, when you have an idea but you don't have an interest, it's like you just copied it from somewhere and it was a good thing, but even you deep down you don't feel it. Then it is not easy to try and woo the other person to get into your idea.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you think when you're, if you are given this kind of feedback, would you be willing to work around the zeal on how you present to your audience? Listen, because you are an authority in it, you know, and maybe you didn't even know. How would you tell? How? So give me. So put yourself that. How would you feedback to the to your supervisor who's giving you this feedback? How would you feedback? What kind of conversation would you have? Anyone? Either you can continue.
I think it's good first to acknowledge, because we all have flaws, and feedback tells us some of our strengths and our weaknesses. So I would take my strength that I know how to do my presentation, get the facts right, get the details. And I always say that sometimes the way we are created, nature, we are created who we are. But when you become an adult and you mingle, and that is why we are said sometimes you're a product of our interactions. So when you interact with people who criticize you and you know, this is my failure, then you work on it. So I think I would just tell the supervisor that I would really take time to learn on how my presentation skills, and do what we are always told, that stand in front of a mirror and try and see if it works. Then you work on it. Because the first thing is take it positively. Then when you take a criticism positively, then you are able to really think through it and work, not think that it is a negative thing.
So some of us are introverted, some of us are extroverted, but if you are, if your work requires you to make presentations, it calls for you to make extra effort to engage with your audience. You get what I mean? By the way, people make a decision to listen to you the first 5 minutes of your presentation. After that, you lose them totally. If you don't vary your tone, if you don't give them an opportunity to speak, if you don't give them, it's the first 5 minutes, don't you? Have you ever gone to a meeting or a seminar, even in church? You look at the pastor and you decide whether you are going to listen or not, isn't it? You just, the way they have just presented themselves, the way they appear, until they, you have to give them the benefit of doubt at that point when they start saying, and our topic of today is on salvation, then maybe it catches your eye. And then you start whatever. So people, how you prepare, how you appear is extremely important. And if you know that even when you're giving Stephanie feedback, Stephanie, you might want to throw in and say, we can help you in your presentation skills. If there's a gap, we can do that. But how do I give you a skill on how to be enthusiastic? How do I give you a skill to be in the moment of passion. How do I, you remember someone in parliament said, how do I measure your passiometer? What passion, you know, it was very funny in terms of how do I bring myself there. So it's some of the things that if I give feedback, then it's important. And I know this job requires this. What do I need to continue learning? And I like what Ida has said is that we are accumulation of the people that we interact with. You know, they give us feedback. We're able to push forward. So good feedback, and how she's received it, she needs to work on it. If she needs a skill to be given to her through training, mentoring, coaching, you know, that can come in. But again, in terms of capturing your audience, it's very important for her to know how to actually do it so that she can be able to be in the moment and dance with her audience. So thank you about that. Yeah. So the power of feedback. Stephanie now exactly knows she's not been displaying enthusiasm in her content. Her feedback scores tell her she sounds bored. What does Stephanie have to do? She works on the feedback given, redirects her effort without confusion to deliver a 10 over 10 presentation, isn't it? And that's what it means. Practice over and over again. Take a dry run, even when you start becoming, and anybody can become a trainer if you're passionate about research, reading on a various topic. Start with your team. Let me be the one giving you this presentation around this area that we are struggling with. I have done my presentation and whatever, and then after that you just keep growing and growing and growing, and sooner than later you're addressing a public rally at Uhuru Park when we all go back to those kind of things. So it's something that you learn over time. So that's important. So thank you. Yeah. So the power of feedback. Remember, feedback is given, if given appropriately, can help create healthy personal and professional relationships. We agree? So should we be friends at work? I love to ask this question. Should we be friends at work? Yes, Carol.
No.
No, okay. No friends at work.
It depends on what level that we call friends. If it's just a work-related relationship, then good enough. You can have lunch together, you know, coffee together. But if it goes to beyond workplace, such it touches personal lives, there's an intense level you can't go to, because if, like HR, you allow that, then you face hiccup always when it comes to things like disciplinary, which are inevitable. Yeah, so no, though sometimes it's very hard. You find the people you're working with by default becomes your friends, but it's always a boundary for us HR to observe and be keen and intentional to be aware of yourself. Yes, so it all depends on the level of the friendship.
Level of friendship, okay, great. Someone else?
I would say no. Because for my friend, take it as not a working environment. Yeah, I would even if my friend is a bit wrong or she's done something that is not right, I wouldn't be bold enough to go and tell her the truth, or I'll tell her the truth just a little bit, and then the rest I'll keep it in because I don't want to hurt my friend. So when it's work, let it be work. When it's friendship, let it be friendship. So I wouldn't mix the two up.
Okay, great. But let me just challenge you there. So wouldn't you tell your friend, really you are out of line completely? You know, here, there is no way that, I mean, I thought my friend would look out for me completely. Hey, here, Catherine, it is extremely, no. This I'll even take you to the police because I'm your best friend and I want the best for you. Here, no. if I had a friend like that, and I understand where you're coming from, it's just a challenge in terms of this discussion. We feel it very fast. Nobody speaks truth to power. We agree. Nobody tells the king he's naked. That is how it is, because again, in the issue of power. But we also struggle with our friendships. You know, we never want to tell our friends what it is, because we don't want to hurt them. You remember? But how can we create real, authentic friendships and people feel that we want the best for them?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Personally, I think at workplaces, we need to be friends. And I think that is where most of the times the employees are always skeptical of HR. Because we say we don't need to be friends so that I can be able to discipline you. You also discipline your child, and your child is your relation, and they're your friends, and you are everything. So it's about knowing, defining what is friendship. There's friendship at personal level, and then there's friendship by virtue of us being social beings. Like, if I meet you for the first time, I come and report to work, then what do I need to do? I need to create that that connection. What is that connection? The connection is what friendship is. It's only that we always take friendship to be something too much intimate, that, or too much personal, that I cannot correct you. But a good friend is a friend who can tell you that here you are doing wrong, correct you, and tell you this is wrong. No matter how much of a friend you are, this is wrong.
I think it, yeah, sorry, Ada. Sorry, did I
and that is why, as a HR, you are able to mentor somebody, show them their career growth line, everything. When they have problems, there's counseling still in HR, but the same HR disciplines. Because you have to play both I don't want to say the evil and the good, but you have to play both sides of the coin.
It's true. It's a very delicate balance. Do we become friends or acquaintances? And for me, over time, I have seen that where I worked, my first job, I've created very strong friendships. You know, I stopped I stopped working in that organization, but we still became very we've become very good friends over years, and it's with three of them, a very close bond. But again, it's delicate, and even leave HR, where HR is, people see, well, I can't, whatever, I can't cross that line. It's the perception about HR is it's a sad one. Let me put it like that. You know, even if I want to become your friend, HR amekuita, utakiona leo. You get what I mean? So even leave that. I think there is a place of really being authentic to each other and being truthful to each other at the workplace, so that people know your core strength of where we can connect and interact. Some of the hobbies we all enjoy. Ida and Catherine love reading books. Let's start a book club. You know, Doreen and Carol love to play tennis. They'll go out and play tennis. You get what I mean? There is a connection beyond that. And hey, I was struggling last week with this presentation, and you are the tennis court, and I say, I'll help you tomorrow. Let's play tennis. You know, so there's need for us to have strong connections that help us as individuals to grow without feeling that I am in your space. You get what I mean? And if I invite you in my space, Father, how do I relate with you in that space? Let's define it. If I'm going to invite you to my place for a cup of tea, my home for a cup of tea, I expect you that at that level, we are relating very differently, and we are going to keep it at within maturity of what it is. So the next thing is that I keep asking, in our department or in the organization, I have lost a loved one. And you know, Africans will put an envelope together, and that one evening we all say we are going to Catherine's place. So will you not welcome us to your place? That's always the catch-22. We Africans, we love it. We'll be there for you in good and bad times. So there's such, you've gotten a baby, the department wants to come and say hello to your baby. You get what I mean? There's such, there's a connection that is there, but we don't want that connection. We don't want to be known too much, you know. So, but it's for us to, as individuals, to know where we are going to relate with each other at the workplace. It becomes easier when we are kind of connected without any hindrances for us to be able to receive feedback, you know. And it takes a lot, again, of maturity, seeding our egos, you know, being self-aware who I am, knowing what kind of personality Catherine has, what is her characteristics, what's her belief. And then it converges to the kind of culture we have in this organization, where we all subscribe to the values and to the beliefs and traditions of this organization. The moment that it doesn't relate with me, that is when problems start coming in. Okay. I love that topic a lot because it informs the kind of culture that we have in the organization. If we have a crappy culture that people cannot relate with, no matter how good a strategy we have, we will never be able to go beyond it, and feedback will always be constrained. So everything revolves in the organization around the culture, communication, and feedback, going round and round and round. Okay, great. Anything around there? Feedback, if given an appropriately, can create healthy personal and professional relationships with each other. And I can also, I would like you to think of you as an individual, or maybe even someone in your organization, where they were in a team and all of a sudden they've been promoted and they have to become head of that team. What happens? If they were all friends, what happens? They used to go for lunch together. They leave the manager there, just thinking kila mtu ameenda, nimewachwa hapa. They form a WhatsApp group. The manager is not included. It's lonely at the top. Or even the manager forms the WhatsApp group, and then in the evening, someone else goes and says, okay, fine, we're in this WhatsApp group the manager has created, but they have another one where they discuss all sorts of manner of things. And the manager is asking in the evening, this report needs to go out. And in that other chat group, they're saying, the manager has asked, can Ben, please respond? You know, what are you waiting for? You know, isn't that what happens? There are always two WhatsApp groups. Oh, managers, you're in trouble. So lonely. Is that what happens? Oh, that's not what happens.
Can I try?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very awkward position to be, especially when you've been promoted from you know, a team.
Yeah.
That you've been working together. It happened to me.
Yeah.
For many years, I've had colleagues. Worked in one institution for many years, like 25 years now.
Wow.
Yes, and along the way I've grown, and these are colleagues you worked with, and all of a sudden you're promoted. There never used to be a HR department. And all of a sudden there was need, because of the growth, to create now a HR department. And now, to a shock to everybody, Carol is the one who is in charge of the HR. So it's a blow, because all of a sudden you realize, wow, everybody has gone.
Carol, I'm not laughing at you, but that's the reality. When people come for coaching, that's the one thing that they struggle in, especially middle managers. I love it when middle managers come for coaching and they say, I have a big problem. People have, nobody is talking to me now.
Can I come?
Come. You've been there 25 years. By now, you know what happens.
No,
how did
terrible.
how have you,
it's
how have
terrible.
you how have you navigated around it?
I'm still working very hard. It's tough. It's where you are firm and very clear of what you're saying. You're not saying maybe or should be. You're clear of what answer you're giving. So even if they like it or not,
Yeah.
So they will have politics, workplace politics. You'll hear comments, bad comments, words. Now Carol became proud, you know. So, but along the way, I'm learning to empower myself. That's why such forums I join and learn how to do feedback, you know, and emotional intelligence. So along the way, I'm building up stamina.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. 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 Okay, great. Yeah. And I can attest to that. You know, I became a manager at a very young age, at 25, promoted. 27, I was promoted to head East Africa, and if I look back and say some things I did were so foolish, you know, I was 27, naive, foolish, and whatever, but I had a mentor and I had a coach, you know, quickly, and I had a supporting organization. My colleagues, some, yes, embraced me, some, well, let's see whether she's going to fail and whatever. So I can relate with that, but there should be programs around the organization in terms of people going into management. What does that mean for them? Are they ready? Do they enjoy it? Are they whatever? So it's a whole new perspective for a young manager, especially in age, and they are friends with a team, and now all of a sudden you have to whatever. So I can relate with what you're saying. Okay, great. So types of feedback. Anybody else who would like to say something around it? Types of feedback before. So the traditional approach, you know, I give you written feedback, I give you verbal feedback, I give you workplace feedback where we say it's about performance and behavior. But really, how do we, the types of feedback that are in the 21st century, those are the ones that we want to look into. These traditional feedbacks are everywhere in the corridor. You know, let me give you feedback. Oh, by the way, don't we do that all the time? Oh, by the way, I've been looking for you. Let me give you feedback on that report that we did, or let me give you feedback on that sales pipeline that we are following on. You know, just informal feedback on the corridors, or maybe I come to your office and say, let me schedule a time for me to come and give you feedback on where we are and stuff like that. So, and written feedback, I will be following it up with some written notes on what we have discussed and things like that, you know. And workplace feedback that is in two areas: what we have seen about your performance, the role that you hold in the organization, and also your attitude. And every time we say Catherine has an attitude, we always think, oh, she's got a bad attitude, you know, because that's how, again, we've overused, we've misused that word. Let me put it like that. When we say, put it, Catherine, you have a bad attitude, and give the examples of the bad attitude and how that bad attitude affects everybody else, and that how bad attitude does not conform to our values and to our beliefs and to our tradition and to our culture as an organization. And then you come and say, Catherine, you have a great attitude. Oh my gosh. You know, you have a sunny disposition. And why I want to say that you have a good attitude is because every time you go over your call of duty to do this work, you've really done a good job, you know. So let's be able to define exactly, let's our conversations be precise. You remember what I said? Listen to what we are saying over and over again. Then it will give us importance in our speech, and we will feel fulfilled around our discussion. So always make sure that when you say, that waiter has an attitude, we already know our meal is not going, our time in this restaurant is not going to be the best. In fact, if anything, if you say, I don't want to be served by you, bring someone else, and you're not giving feedback, you know, I came, I greeted you, you didn't, whatever, your demeanor, you know, and sometimes we look at someone for the first time, we don't like them and stuff like that. Anyway, so verbal feedback, I've already explained it. Responses given verbally by the sender message that allows both the sender and the receiver to know what the message was received correctly. It is usually given through face-to-face interaction. At times it could be combined with both written feedback, e.g. a performance appraisal. When that is done and we are taking down notes, and then written feedback, the response is given in writing It is evaluative in nature. It's usually given through surveys, questionnaires, feedback forms, etc. I'm sure you've gone to a shop where they say, please give us feedback. At the hospital, please give us feedback. There are many sorts of whatever. Are you are you getting feedback, especially during this time? Have you just defined a survey? You know, do I like working at home? Do I not like working at home? Just 2 sentences without asking why, you know, and then after that you say, oh, 60% like working from home. Then you go back and say, we've gotten a feedback about that. Can we explore it further? Things like that. It carries more weightage than formal feedback because it is documented, and we saw the importance of documenting feedback earlier on. Okay, so workplace feedback, it is information given to employees, team members about their acts that help them meet individual or group organizational goals. There are 2 types of feedback which we looked at. Job performance involves competencies, whether or not the employee is capable of performing specific tasks. Can you hear me, or you can hear noise in the background, guys? Am I clear?
I think we are good.
You're good, yeah. Work-related behavior involves the way in which an employee performs a task, you know. How do you show up? Even by just the way you show up at the workplace gives such a strong impression to your colleagues. If we are in a formal, if you're in a formal setting that calls for suit and tie, you know, that calls for us to dress up and be and conform to the kind of business that we do, it's important, you know. But if you come without any tie because you're the one in power, or you're just there junior over there and say, well, this tie is not good for me, or stuff like that, how you show up is important. How you put yourself together, how your desk is arranged is important, you know. It gives us feedback with the kind of person that you are. When you go to the kitchen and you've had your cup of tea and you leave it there because, well, there's someone to take it to the sink, which is true, you should be able to do what? Take it to the sink. Contain yourself, you know, stuff like that. It just shows, and everybody will come and say, oh, she always speaks her whatever, and people will know that you can be relied upon. You get what I mean? So you have no other chance to make a first impression. You agree? You all never have another chance to make a first impression. So make the best out of it. You know, when you get an opportunity, make the best of it, because people remember you with how they interacted with you the first time. Okay. Types of feedback. The modern approach to classifying feedback is reinforcing and redirecting. And let's look at them critically. Anybody about reinforcing and redirecting feedback? What's reinforcing and what is redirecting? Maybe you had a look at it briefly. That's the modern approach. What is redirecting? Even when you just think about the word redirecting and reinforcing, what do you think around types of feedback at the workplace? And that's what we want in the 21st century. Sometimes I sit, sometimes I stand. Anyone? Redirecting, reinforcing, the power of feedback, through the power of feedback. Okay, let's have a look at them. So reinforcing feedback, it tells us what we are doing well and what we should do to continue it. I would like examples coming from you guys, because people learn through examples, you know. When we give an example, reinforcing feedback and redirecting feedback, it helps us identify where areas we can change and improve in order to be more effective and have the greatest impact in the job. So examples, please. And this is what I would like us to take today. The traditional way is tried and tested, but we need to move a notch higher of reinforcing feedback and redirecting feedback. Anybody with some good examples around it, please? Anyone? Modern approach in classifying feedback? Multidirectional, focuses on us, is supportive, it's future oriented, you remember? It's goal oriented, it's continuous. We continuously give the feedback. Someone with a good example, reinforcing feedback. Tell us what we are doing. It could be we are doing well or we are falling short and what we should continue doing. An example, doing well. Any, just a simple, basic example that
Okay,
you.
can I try?
Yeah, yes, Carol.
Um, for me, I think a simple example I would give is what we are doing today. You know, as HR practitioners, that we are seeking to learn more, and the willingness even from your side to, you know, to teach us, to give us the knowledge that you have, so that we can be better for the society tomorrow, for our institution, for our country. I think we need to continue doing this more and
Yeah,
more.
exactly. Yeah, engaging with each other, building our networks, reaching out on our peers for us to be able to continue being better at our workplaces or even as as individuals. Anybody else tell us what? Okay, or this week, have you been able to give someone feedback on things that they do well and encourage them to continue doing it? What was it when you think about it? Or you didn't explain to them, you just said, hey, well done, like those are the slides of Stephanie, and we can call them names, John or whatever. Anybody?
Okay, maybe I'm talking too much.
No, that's okay, Carol, please go ahead.
Let me give an example. Okay, adding on to what I've just, my comments has. I work in an education institution. And of course, during this COVID period, it's been very, very hard to teach for teaching faculty. And for me, being in admin and the one in charge of HR, I sat down and observed, you know, on what was happening online, because for us, we were doing online for 2 terms, because at this level now we have closed for summer holiday. So I thought, I sat and did a self-audit of the department. How can I be able to give a feedback to the staff, you know? So I actually took a step to call all the teachers, individuals, book them slot. And I gave feedback because it was from how we had observed online teaching. And one of the main feedback was, as a teacher, you can work in an institution, even without planning, when the schools are happening physically, and you go into class and teach, and you deliver the lesson very well, even without planning. But virtually, it is hard off. No, you have to plan. You have to plan. You have to realize you've been invited in different homes. And so even parents are observing how you're teaching. So you must be ready. You must be prepared. So for me, it was very humbling to watch teachers plan and deliver successful lessons. So that's what I did last week, the week that has just started, and it has brought out so positive demeanor in the teachers, and I'm very impressed.
Fantastic, Carol. It made me get goosebumps, you know. Well done. And I'm sure all parents in this forum can relate in terms of how much hard work the teachers put on online teaching. Maybe, or maybe they would want to give feedback to whatever, because we are inviting them into our homes. It's true. And I see them struggling, from my little ones to my elder ones who are more self-serving and they're able to be more in control of their learning devices and whatever. But these other 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, you have to, the teachers really are are having a hard time, and this is a new way of teaching and instructing. So well done, Carol. And I believe all parents in this forum can really emphasize with that, because I look, oh my gosh, yeah, it's a whole new ball game in terms of teaching online. Yeah, even us, you know, you really have to come prepared in terms of engaging with people whom you cannot see. How do I engage with my audience of 70? How do I engage with my audience of 5? How do I engage with my audience of 15? What do they take back? What kind of feedback? And adults learn when they want to learn. So well done. Thank you for reinforcing that behavior and looking at them and saying their demeanor and was positive and they would like to forge forward. Well done. Okay. Someone else in redirecting feedback. It given me something to think about the schools that my children go to, and giving feedback in terms of for the benefits of the teachers. I'm happy to give that. Yeah. Redirecting feedback, it helps us identify areas we can change and improve in order to be more effective in the greatest impact, to have the greatest impact in the job. So reinforcing feedback in this quadrant is that you are doing well. Continue doing it. We love what you're doing. It's a strength. How do we make sure that we can capitalize it? Redirecting feedback is, you know, this is not going well. So you're trying not to be direct, you know, but you're saying, let's get it back. Let's see what needs to be done. This is not going well. Let me give you feedback in areas of improvement. So if you remember, new ways of giving feedback, 21st century of giving feedback, reinforcing positive behavior, redirecting feedback, saying there's a weakness, there's a fault here, there's a gap here. How are we going to do it? So someone give me an example of this week, what you've been able to do around redirecting feedback. Something that has not been going well, please feel free to share a scenario, even you yourself, when you think, hey, I didn't do well there. Because that's how we only learn, through sharing in these forums. Someone else? Anyone around? Elizabeth, Christine, Yvonne, Mary, Chariot, Collins, all of us 19 here, redirecting feedback. Okay. So what are the steps of giving feedback? How do we make sure that our feedback is structured in a way that is constructive? People will be able to receive it. You know, how do we begin? How do we prepare giving feedback? How do you? Okay. So we would like to have a step approach, whether it's positive feedback, whether it's negative feedback, you know, the two, redirecting and reinforcing, those two. So make the person feel comfortable, isn't it? Beginning the feedback, how to begin the feedback session. Whether, and let me tell you, whether it's through disciplinary process, I mean, the person has erred. Yes, it is bad. It's a bad situation, especially where we feel that this really deserves gross misconduct, summary dismissal. All the same, we need to be able to give them feedback so that they go out reflecting and saying, hey, what I did was not right. I need to do better. If I'm to get a second chance somewhere else, I would be able to look at that feedback that I got was important and it helped me. So beginning feedback session, make the person feel comfortable. It's important. Break the ice with casual conversation. How are you doing? How has it been? How is it going for you? How is your family? The weather today is nice and the weather yesterday was very cold. Patterns have changed over time. You know, have a banter talk around it. Yeah. Keep your emotions in check. Remember, you never have a second chance to make a first impression, no matter how upset that person you are with that person. You know, no matter how angry you are, keep your emotions in check. You know, met out the correct emotion at that time. You know, you're pensive at that time, be pensive. You show some bit of being upset, make it appropriate at that time. make the person feel comfortable. Even if you're expressing that emotion, they know for sure it warrants you to be in that emotion. But don't be the one who is feeling that you have the power over this person. Keep your tone and voice positive at all times. No matter how difficult it is to give this bad news, or make the person know how upset you are, always keep a positive tone in your voice. It could be firm, but it's diplomatic, you know. And then after that, we go back in, document what happened, where and when it occurred, follow up with the person after they agreed. After that, begin, sorry, I am whatever. So begin your feedback session, and then prepare to give the feedback, you know. So now I am in the whatever. Ask if the person is open for feedback. Might not be a good place. Choose an appropriate time and place. So you remember, reprimand in private, praise in public. Place where you wouldn't get distracted. Time when both of you are not feeling stressed, and tried out. And if it goes too long, then you say, let's take time out. And it might also be a committee that we are working with, a team, and we say, no, it's time out for us to be able to do that, you know. And then present the feedback. Give specific feedback with examples. You remember? Describe impact of the person's behavior, suggest alternative behavior, you know, in terms of, and most of the time we are giving feedback which is difficult. And this is the way of making sure that we give precise feedback. Feedback about performance or meeting a target and whatever is not as difficult. When we are talking about Catherine herself, we find it extremely difficult. So as leaders, we need to cultivate that skill of giving feedback about a person, because we are going to touch on that. We are sometimes going to touch on raw nerves. So let's practice it over and over and over again, in terms of how do I get it? How do I get it right? How do I make sure that their performance is going to improve for the person and the personality and the kind of character that they have? They will retrospect and give whatever. So, and then after that, document the feedback, because if this behavior is going to continue happening, then there will be consequences. Half the time is when we don't want to face consequences, but consequences are as important as meting out and making sure that we are helping this person. So documenting feedback, document what happened, where and when it did occur, follow up with the person after the agreed time frame. Any question around there in terms of giving feedback? How we give feedback? What have managers done in the past? What have managers done in the past? Tell me. Lack of documenting it is one of the things that I see managers not doing very well. Something else you see managers not doing very well? Steps in giving feedback. They will not ask the person whether they are ready to receive this feedback. They will call them when they have time and the other person is not in the frame of mind to receive the feedback. Something else, guys, please. Something else that we see where feedback goes wrong. Because when we don't follow some of these steps, what happens? In fact, if we don't follow these steps, it becomes very counterproductive. Someone else? Okay. Okay. I hope this will help you. Okay. Steps in giving feedback, steps in giving reinforcement. How do we reinforce the feedback that we have given, or the feedback that we want to give? How do we make sure that there is reinforcement around whether it's negative or whether it is positive? And half the time is when it is negative. Describe the behavior you want to reinforce. So, Catherine, you always come to work late. Let me give you feedback. It is important for you to come to work early because it is part of the policy. You need to come to work early because when you start work on time, you're able to make sure that you finish it on time. It's important to to come in time, because other people are watching you and you need to set an example as part of this person in this department. You know, and when you come to work on time, you're the person in charge of opening the system. And when you don't open the strong room, the tellers are not ready to start serving customers. So you show them the importance of them coming to work on time within the working framework of your organization, why it is important. So point them to the policy, point them to the work, point them to the team that they work in, point them to their responsibility as a person. So it's important for us to continue doing that. Describe the behavior you want to reinforce. Explain the positive impact that the act has had in the organization when they used to do that correctly. Help your feedback recipient to take credit of his or her success. Thank the recipient and encourage similar acts in the future. Okay, any question around there, please? Any question around steps in giving feedback? Steps in giving feedback, anybody? Okay. Steps in giving redirection. You remember? This is reinforcement. You remember where we had reinforcing feedback and redirecting feedback. This is very positive feedback. This is where people are struggling in. So, steps in redirection. Describe the behavior you want to redirect. Step 2, listen to the recipient's reaction. There'll always be a reaction. I come to work late because the traffic is a lot. I live 2 hours from my workplace. And then you are thinking, am I the one who told you to live 2 hours away? In your head, isn't it? That's what happens. But even the person who's receiving feedback, who's giving feedback, should be extremely objective and should always come with a blank page, because you don't know what the other person will be saying in terms of this behavior that has been picked up. They might be saying, I come to work every day late because, and then you just, when they give you the answers to why the reason as to why they come to work late, you might be extremely taken aback. Can you imagine if they tell you, I come to work late because my spouse is terminally ill and I have to give them medicine before I leave. And the medicine has to be given at a specific time and it can only be given at 7:30 and we come at 8. What would be your reaction to that explanation? You as the supervisor, how would you react to that? And you never knew. They've been terminally ill for the last 3 years, struggling. But all of a sudden, the last 6 months, they've been coming home late because now maybe even the other caregiver is not able to be there. They struggle to come to work. How would you feel? How would you inform this situation? Someone? Anyone? How would you feel? How would that new information make you feel? And how would you continue with this feedback? What allowance would you make for me if I came and told you that? I've opened a very personal Pandora's box for you. How would you receive it? Anyone? Real life example? Anyone? Ida, Carol?
I think
Let's go
first
through
of
the.
all, it will make me question the relationship I have with that staff, because if there are things in life, as much as they may be personal, they will definitely affect your official duties. Like if you have a terminally ill spouse, it will definitely affect your work relations. Because at one point you may need to take this person to hospital. One point they may wake up when they're not feeling well, you can't leave them. So if my staff cannot tell me, that is the first hint. What is the relationship?
Exactly.
Yes. It will really make me question. Of course, I'll feel guilty, and I will also be either this person needs help, because the way I said, we are who we are. There are people, even if they are in so much pain, you will just know when it hits them that they can't handle, they can never share. So you may not take the whole blame that it is me who has a problem, probably even the other employee. So I will get away, most probably counseling, so that they may be able to, because sharing makes you feel a little lighter. It may not give you a quick solution, but it will make you feel lighter. Probably that is what you need to have a clear mind so that you can work your way out. Either you get somebody to help you at this time, or now arrange with your supervisor that because now I have to do the medicine at this time, probably give me time so that I may be reporting at this time. So that even you as the supervisor, you may allocate duties depending now with that schedule. Because in life, there are things we don't call for sickness. So as much as the organization is topmost, so look at the priorities of the organization, try to fit in a schedule and give your staff also time. Because if you don't have peace of mind at home, obviously you will not deliver at work.
Exactly. Either you would not have put it any better. You know what? The Catherine you see in the office is the same Catherine that you want to see at the workplace, is the same Catherine you want to see in traffic. It's the same Catherine you want. You know, many a times is when I said about being authentic. We come and leave. The work has taught us to leave our baggage at the workplace. But now we want to make sure that we have duty of care. And duty of care does not just begin from HR. It begins from the top to the bottom, where we feel that this organization really cares for me in my personal life and in my career life. And without us feeling that connection, we'll always be disengaged, one foot in, one foot out. Other managers make extra effort to know their teams and to make sure that they endear themselves to to their team members, so that they can know when someone is facing a problem or has a challenge, that production, their productivity will go down. And unless as a manager you do that, people will never be able to trust you fully enough or feel confident enough to come to you and tell you, I have a problem, isn't it? So we have a lot of work around personal relationships at the workplace. And that's why we said, do we become friends? Do we become just acquaintances? But the productivity and the business of the workplace is real. So when you get such whatever, I like you retrospect and say, oh my gosh, why can't they come to me and tell me that? Something that is so heavy on them, but they are not able to share with me. Why? Is it because I'm such a harsh manager? I'm not approachable? I'm not endearing? What else am I missing from this team in giving leadership that they would really be productive? And then also take a chill pill, like what Ida has also said and said, well, I have evaluated myself. I've given myself to this team the best way I know how. But this person, Catherine, no matter how much we try, Catherine is a real close that person. She'll never share this until her productivity is so bad, her late coming is so bad. This is the only way we're able to whatever, when we are redirecting her because of a behavior we have seen at the workplace. You get, guys? So it is important for us to be very intentional in our leadership as leaders in the area of giving feedback and in the area of leading teams, because I can try everything. I'm a really good manager. I try, but Catherine will never. She's just that one person who is very difficult to penetrate. And also maybe even giving feedback. So it's for us to find the balance of knowing everybody. So when this comes out, it is not a surprise. Oh, I'll just say, oh, it's in her nature. She'll only give it to us when it's the last straw that will break the camel's back. So well done and well put. And I'm sure that's what everybody would have said. So step one, behind the behavior you want to redirect. And the example is that you're coming late. Listen to the recipient's reaction. Ni traffic. Siezi kuja, hiyo njia yetu iko na traffic sana. You get, so you're wondering, really, is that a good whatever? So it will make you counter-react that kind of person. So you tell them, so what am I supposed to do about traffic? You need to wake up early or move closer to the office. It makes you have that kind of reaction, but that's not the kind of reaction you want. And then maybe they retrospect and tell you, oh my gosh, let me tell you, boss, I have this sick spouse. I am so sorry, and whatever. So those two kind of reactions will make sure that you whatever. So if that kind of listen to the recipient's reaction, it come and say, clarify your expectations about the reactions, the recipient's behaviors, performance. If that whatever, explain the negative effect of the recipient's reaction. You get what I mean? So this is the one, 3Bs, where they don't have a don't care attitude even to the kind of problem that you have brought to their attention. But this one, where they say, oh my gosh, I see the problem. And you know the problem is because of this A, B, and C. You can see that they are trying to be upbeat and say what the problem is so that you can work together. Step number 4, help your recipient acknowledge and accept the problem. I'm very sorry you have a sick spouse, but the coming of work late, how can we work around it? How can we look at the structure of this organization and be able to accommodate what is happening around? Develop an action plan. An action plan would be like, okay, come at 9 and work through lunch hour. If 30 minutes will break your bottom line of your organization, then there's nothing you are doing. You can take that to the bank. It sounds harsh from me. If you can't give someone who is in dire need some time off and not call it off from their time, and you think it will improve their bottom line, your bottom line of the organization, you'll never improve it. Because that's the same thing we are saying. If you count my hours, you want me to be behind my desk from 8 to 5, thinking I'm productive, compared to me coming to work even for 5 hours and the other 3 hours I'm doing things that I want. Work is a space. It's not a location anymore. Some work, some roles will require you to be at the office. But even at that office, if I've done 5 hours of good work, and the rest of the 3 hours I'm researching on how to become a better at my work. I'm researching, I am not working, but it's work related. Please let me be. That is how we are going to build agile teams around anywhere. And that can be across everywhere in all industries, whether it is in the government, whether it is SMEs, whether it's in corporates, big corporates, whether it is in NGOs, it is the same. We can have this discussion about work and productivity and the effort that we need to bring at the workplace. So develop an action plan and thank the recipient. Thanks for letting me know. Let's keep having this conversation. It was important. I will not document some of the confidential things we have said, but in terms of really letting you come in at 9, because then it is important, we are making this discretionary policy for you, and it is going to go on indefinite, or it's going to go on for this whatever amount of time. Clear? Any question around it? So let's go back in terms of redirecting and reinforcing so that it's much more productive to the two parties on what we want to achieve. Moving on faster, very, very fast in terms of for our time. I know we've gone very fast. I hope it's been whatever. Tips for giving feedback very quickly. Prior to the feedback session, ensure that the person is aware, collect the information that you might want to do during the feedback. We've said these things. We are just re-emphasizing. Summarize the feedback to ensure that you know the positive aspects of the areas of information. with examples. During the feedback, redefine the purpose and duration of the whatever, clarify the structure of the session. Am I the only one giving you feedback, or will you also get feedback from your peers, your juniors, or from other stakeholders? Encourage the recipient who have to self-assess their behavior and their performance. Aim to encourage a dialogue. It's not just you talking. Yeah, I'm the only one. You know, don't use power, raw power, during giving feedback. Reinforce good practice. Identify, analyze, and explore potential situations. Okay, so, and also post the feedback, complete any outstanding documentation like what we have said. Make sure that you keep a copy and the recipient also keeps a copy. Agree on the follow-up activities or action points. Ensure the opportunity for remedial work arranged either through training, mentoring, coaching, you know, taking a peer to be accountable, and just making sure that you can hold the person accountable. Set a date for the next feedback session if so required. So tips for giving feedback. Keep an open mind. Make sure that the timing is right. Don't give me feedback when I'm on an empty stomach, when I want to go and have lunch. Stay very calm. Remember the emotions. Just use the correct emotions. Most of the time, please use positive emotions. Be specific and be sincere. You know, don't be mean. You know, mean what you say. Be sincere, be authentic, be honest, be timely, and make it, don't prolong it. You remember that there was this president of Fidel Castro, is of which country? Former. He used to address his his country for 3 hours, from 2 to 4 every Sunday, reading a speech, and nobody could do anything else. Please Google. He was a special president. Remember to support, help the recipient self-assess, explore actions, reinforce feedback in public, redirecting feedback in private, very true. How much? Make sure that the praise matches the effort, congratulate small successes as well. Listen, use paraphrase. This is what I hear you say. Be empathetic. Focus on the behavior you want to change and not on the person. You know, not me, you know, the behavior you want to change. Catherine, you're very judgmental. And that's a behavior that is causing a lot of discomfort to the teams and to the team that you lead. You're a good person, Catherine, but your judgmental characteristic really impedes the production of your teams. Okay. So ask for detailed feedback, paraphrase what you want to think and have it heard, seek suggestions for future actions, thank the person for giving the feedback. So these are just the steps that we have actually, steps in receiving feedback as well. So whether you are receiving reinforcement, redirection, probe for details. Consider this example, guys. I'm so glad you liked the work I did on Johnson and Company project. Could you please tell me specifically what you liked, and I will do it again in the next project. You know, a scenario. I acknowledge that I lost my temper. I acknowledge that I lost my temper last week on an angry customer. I do not know how to deal with an irate customer. Could you give me suggestions, please? Isn't it? And these are practical things that we can go back and help our teams. Act out the scenario of what happened. The good one, remember, the redirecting and the reinforcing. So, gives on giving whatever. Stay focused, avoid becoming defensive. You remember how to give hard feedback when we ask what we want to learn? Stay very focused, avoid becoming defensive, ask for examples, specific observations, follow through on commitments made, listen more than speak, be very open-minded. Okay. Barriers to giving feedback. What are some of the barriers of giving feedback? Barriers to giving feedback? Everyone here? Cheriot, Caro, Ida, Dan.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, yeah, please do.
You may have fear of reproach, that how is my feedback going to be taken?
Fear of reproach, how is my feedback going to be taken? Very true. Because we want always to have good relationships. We don't want to antagonize anyone. But being a leader means that you are the leader of the good, the bad, and the ugly, that you're able to give feedback in a way that is appropriate and is timely. I like that, because we always want to fit in. So we are fearful of giving feedback. Someone else? Barriers to giving feedback?
May I try?
Yes, please, Carol.
The culture of an organization.
The kind of culture that we have in the organization. True. We never give feedback because, well, that is our culture. Someone else? Anybody else? Okay. So the first one has been said. The fear of upsetting the recipient, damaging the relationship, fear of doing more harm than good. You remember, well, are we friends? What kind of space will I give you if I'm your friend? Are we acquaintances? Am I your boss? You know, I can't even give feedback to my supervisor because, well, I can't approach them. You know, I don't want to upset them. I want to protect my job. Quality of feedback. Feedback being too generalized, you know, it's not specific. It doesn't have the oomph. It doesn't have the meat around it. The bone, it's really very, very thin. Feedback being too generalized and not related to specific facts. Observation. Feedback not being suggesting how to rectify their behavior. You remember where we say, give me the very fast example, well done, you know, without giving me specifics of what needs to be done. You come to work late. How have you observed it? How do you know? Did you go to the data? Did you collect it from the clocking in system and things like that? Attitude of recipient. You remember about ego? Not open to feedback, constantly in a state of denial, being defensive and aggressive. Okay. So some other barriers: time and the place, inappropriate place, wrong timing to hamper feedback, effectiveness. Imagine at a party, end of year party, we're all having a good time, and then you come and tell me, I want to give you feedback about last week. You just wonder, really, is this the right place? I'll not be happy about it. You know, feedback source. You remember the very first question I asked you, why do we like bad news travels faster than good news? Because we like to gossip, and we leave the wildfire and we let the bushfire spread, and we've run away from it. Inconsistent feedback from multiple sources, lack of respect for the source of feedback, attitude of the person giving the feedback. I'm the boss. I'll give it to you the best way I know how. I'll be mean. I'll make you feel bad, you know, poor handling of reaction to redirecting feedback. So it's also important. How do I appear? You remember how I appear? Even when I'm giving you feedback, my emotions, you know, my demeanor, the place, how I look as a person. Am I composed? Am I confident in giving you this feedback? Do I want success for you? You know, or you just want to make you feel bad? You know, think about this week as well. Another thing that I would like you to take away is that when you're being given feedback, how is that person? Do they want the best for you, or they just want to pin you down? It must be an opportunity for you to improve and to retrospect and say, anyway, here I was not doing too well. Okay, barriers to give feedback. Consider the example. Editor, I don't know what is the matter with you people. Can't you do a simple layout? Isn't it? And that is talking to the whole editorial team. Think of a newsroom where everybody is trying to make sure that work is done well, and he shouts from nowhere, designer, I'm sorry you don't like this layout. Can you tell us what is you don't like about it? Consider these examples. Yeah. Orbiter. And then the editor says, well, it's awful. That's all. nobody will change, you know. It's just like you've not given us whatever. Simple layout. I don't like it. It's awful. That's it. Really very aggressive. The auditor is vague in his feedback. He's not keeping his emotions in check, isn't it? The designer can easily get frustrated with the inappropriate feedback, and the feedback session can turn into a nasty situation. Or the designer can handle the situation by probing the editor to be specific about the details of the layout, you know, and say, what would you like us to do? You remember where I said, as the person giving the feedback, when things have gone wrong, say, we can improve. Don't say, you would have done this better. Use endearing words that really brings out that you want success for the other person. Go to the desk and say, let's go through this work again. It has a bit of errors here and there. Can we do it together for you to see what you would have done better? That's really, it will really ingrain in the other person's mind. But just to put red and da doesn't help the situation at all. So designing feedback is important, and how it is given is even more important. Okay. So very last ones, what do I do with the feedback that I receive? What should I do with the feedback that I receive? Last but not least, so I've received the feedback. What do I do? Sit on it? Throw it in the dustbin? And the
Can I
stages
try?
of... Yes, Carol. Thank you. Please go ahead.
When the feedback is given to me as a person, the ball is now on my court. I can make any decision, either take it personal, use it against the person who gave me, or use it for the benefit of developing myself and developing the company. It all lies on the individual.
Exactly. Yeah. So like even in the, you remember the grieving also has stages, where when you're going through grief, loss of something, loss of a loved one or something, there will be stages. The same thing about feedback, you know, real feedback that has been given to you. You first check yourself and say, oh, you can be angry. I've had enough of this. You keep telling me, I am tired of it. Denial. I can't see any problem with that. I don't see. Think through your teams. Of a person in your team, some will become angry. Some will go through the denial stage and say, I don't see any problem with this, you're coming late. After all, I do my work well. Blame, it's not my fault. Catherine didn't give me the work that was supposed to be done, so I waited. Instead of you thinking, I don't want this kind of feedback. Why didn't I go to Catherine and ask Catherine, your work is due today so that I can continue with my work? But you blame it on Catherine. Catherine, of course, you have no initiative as an individual. So you wait for your boss to react and blame the other person instead of helping your colleague so that the snowball does not, whatever. Rationalization, I have had a particularly bad week. This week has been bad. It's one thing after the other. So you wait until I'm able to do your work, then I will do it. Acceptance. I realize I have spoken badly with him. You know, I accept, you know, there'll be all sorts of people within the feedback. So it's for you to know your team. You'll know there'll always be someone who is always be angry when getting feedback. How do you penetrate them? The people who are always denying, the people who will always blame others, they are very indecisive, will never cover the other person up. The people who will always be rational, the people who will accept and say, I'm sorry, and these are the best people. Renewed action, the better. I will work on my temper, you know, and come and say, well, this is not good for me, but I do realize. So these last two people in this quadrant are really a joy to work with. These ones, you'll always need to approach the way you give them feedback with caution. Not that you are walking an eggshell on them, with them, but you are always thinking, this person's personality is that one of really quick reaction. How do I go around them? What is the best time to give them feedback? Do they need more work around for us to be able to get to their acceptance easily when I give them feedback, and renewed action for them to know, well, that should not happen again. Okay, here is what you should do with the feedback you get. Listen and take notes as an individual. Understand and clarify, as for examples. Give it time to sink in and get into the perspective. You can even say, thank you, I will come back again. Let's schedule it for next week. Let me think through it. Let me sleep over it. Let me simmer over it. Count up to 10 and come back. Address areas for improvement. This is what I really will do. Make concrete decisions. You know, when people own their actions, it's much more better compared to you giving them solutions, because the solutions they'll say is on the Madam Catherine. But if they're coming from themselves, they own them better and they're able to sustain them. Do not feel devastated by criticisms. Criticism will always be there. Do not make defensive. Do not be defensive and do not make mistakes. And that calls for a lot of maturity, as we have seen and what we have discussed. Okay, great. The very last one, principles for giving feedback. Feedback should be timely. Don't tell me something I did in January, you're bringing it in December. We agree? Let it be at a stroke of the moment. This has happened. How can I help it? How can I help you? What should we be doing? Let it be timely at the right time, and let it be given at the appropriate place. Okay. Be specific, be extremely specific, give examples. This is what has happened. This is what should be done. Place of the feedback, let it be not in public when it is negative feedback. Give reinforcement and give directing it in whatever in public. Limit your forecast. Do not discuss more than 2 issues. You know, this is what you say, this is what you say. Be, limit your forecast. Give it one at a time. Don't pile things up of what it is. Stay hold of where it should be. Focus on the behavior that can be changed, not on the personality trait that we have said. Describe specific behaviors by giving examples where possible, and do not evaluate or assume motives. Please, guys, don't invalidate anybody's feelings. It's just like the same way of someone says, oh, why do people, whatever corona, people will not come to work? Please don't invalidate. If people are fearful, ask them, why are you fearful of this? I want to give you feedback, but you seem not to be whatever, because you're always, they may come and say, because you don't give feedback the way it's supposed to be done. So don't counter react that and say, I am the boss, I should be giving you feedback. You get what I mean? So do not invalidate anybody's feelings, especially when you want their feedback and you want them to change. It's a dialogue, it's a two-way process, and it will become more successful if you let the other person also speak and say how they feel about it, and do not counteract it. Ask, so what can we do to better it? What do you think you'll be able to do? How how fast do you think you'll be able to rectify, and can I hold you accountable in this? But don't give them solutions, especially in terms of character building and character reinforcement. It has to come from the person. But if you tell them, you can give them examples, very specific examples, and they will be able to reflect. But if you tell them, no, this needs to be done, this needs to be changed, especially adults, they're not children. Walk the journey with them, and you will have successful workplaces, you'll have successful teams, and you will have successful individuals, which reflect on your culture and in the bottom line of what you want to do. So finally, use I statement, give feedbacks from your perspective. That way you avoid labeling the person. Say, I was angry and hurt when you criticized my report in front of my boss, rather than you were insensitive yesterday. Do not cite what you might have heard from the recipient, friends, peers. Trust first-hand information. Let me give you information. Now you went getting information from Betty, John, and Peter. Allow me to state my side of the story. this is what I believe in, so that you're able to believe, they know that you believe them and you want the best for them. Okay, I'm going on pretty fast. Is there anything else? Okay, so provide specific suggestions. That's very true. Follow up on what needs to be done. Make it continuous feedback to your teams, because it engages dialogue. We have open communication. There are no underhands. I know I'm going quickly. Make it a positive process and experience. You know, don't reprimand them. You know, make it successful for them. Make it an experience where they are looking forward to getting your feedback, whether it's redirecting feedback or whether it is reinforcing feedback, the two feedbacks that we have learned about. Okay, so those are the 10. We are looking at the relationship, we are looking at the process, and we are looking at the results. Those are the 3 things that the key dimensions to giving feedback. We want to make sure that there is the relationship, the process is correct, and the results are felt and they will be adhered to. Okay, so in summary, giving feedback is the most important skills in the monitoring role. Feedback allows for collection of both sides. The power of feedback allows you to express what the other person thinks and is trying to say. Feedback should either be positive or negative, but it must be constructive. Feedback should be supported by evidence. When giving feedback, we must listen, not we must be able to listen. We must listen. We must make sure that we understand by clarifying information rather than making assumptions. And finally, use your peer group to check out the information you are being given, especially when you have any doubts. That's the end of our webinar today. So let's go back to questions, suggestions. Was it useful? What did you learn out of it? What would you like me to clarify? And what would you like to see in the future? Thank you for your time. Questions, answers? Before I hand it over to Dan. Did I rush too fast in the last topics? Can I go back anywhere? Anyone? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourselves. Someone says, yeah.
Thank you so much, Madam Catherine. Thank you. Yeah, this was a very good training on the power of feedback. Feedback is a very powerful tool. And the other day I asked some people how they took feedback, but mostly, and most of them, that was on our Telegram group. I've shared the link there. Most people understand the word feedback as criticism, whereas you've taught us today that feedback is not about criticism. Feedback can be positive, it can be negative. And as leaders and as HR professionals, we should take feedback to ourselves the way it comes. Then after the person giving feedback has left, we should do an in-depth understanding of, is it we? Am I the, what problem do I have? How do I work on my program? Do I need training? Do I need counseling? Do I need mentorship? I should always take criticism, whether positive or negative, the way it comes. Agnes Gadoni, you want to say something?
Not really. I'm grateful. I've learned enough about the feedback.
Yes.
Yes.
Karibu sana. Ida Ochieng?
Yes, from Madam's presentation, I think what I've come out clear with is that we really need to distinguish between directives and feedback. That directive comes from the supervisors. But feedback is both ways. It's from yes, but a directive, you can only get directive from your supervisor, from your senior, not a junior. But feedback is both ways, both junior and senior, so that we really get
from the bottom
up and everywhere. But directive flow from a direction.
One of these days, we are going to have a training on 360 degrees feedback.
I think that would be a real good one.
Where you get feedback from your seniors, from your juniors, from your customers also. Then you would know how to hold or an all-out improvement on yourself. This was today's training was a continuation of a previous training we had on how to design feedback. We had a topic on that, designing feedback. Today's training was on the power of feedback. Last year we had 360 degrees feedback. Then there is also constructive feedback. That is a topic on itself. And we are going to see how we move towards that. Now, note this for the HR professionals who are participating in today's training. All our programs are approved for CPD points. In December last year, we subjected our courses, the total number of courses for approval by ACHRP for CPD. Now then Corona happened, we already did 3 trainings, which went on very well. Then Corona happened, there was no more meetings. Even as we moved to reopening the country, there are those few organizations like the churches which have been given, which have been asked they can congregate, keep distance. I was wondering, how would we train when all of us had masks? It might be a little bit problem. Therefore, this was our response, so that we could carry on our trainings whose venues were approved variously. We thought, let's do Zoom trainings. So we upgraded our Zoom to a paid Zoom so that we can conduct a training without interruptions. You'll find that most organizations conduct, say, 1-hour trainings, but mostly the truth is, Zoom has a 40-minute free Zoom account for everyone. So you can conduct a training for 40 minutes, but then we will not be able to interact as we've done today. We can carry our trainings from 8 a.m. to midnight without interruptions of any sort. So even after Corona and all that happens, we'll retain Zoom as a way of interaction and as a way of training. So I guess this is a way of embracing technology. Now, having said that, I would welcome feedback so that I would know from my head and from our trainer, Catherine, will be listening. We see the areas of improvement where you would want us to improve on. And maybe I can share, let me share before you give feedback. Our next trainings will be following. Catherine, you can. Okay, it's all right. It's all right. You can see that?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Very well. Now, okay, I'm able to see, for example, the enrollment for every class from the time we began. We are able to see that. And the purpose of registering on the portal, this is the only way one is able to prove that they've participated in this event. Because by the end of today, you should be able to download your certificate from your portal. Let me log into my portal, my account. There we are. So this is basically how it works. After you've enrolled for your program, you would find your portal looks like mine. Now you will go to my courses. This is where I am. Today's training was the power of feedback. We've carried on from course number 1, course code number 1. And if you want to know whether our course is approved by ACHRP, you click on the code, the way I'm doing there. I know this image might not, I don't know. Are you able to see the image?
Yes.
From ACHRP?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, very good. Now that is the approval. We applied for this course. That was on 19th December 2020. And this course was scheduled to take place on, that was on 2019. Then this one, the course was supposed to take place on 8th February 2020. That was our first program. All our trainings for this year were approved to cost 4,000 shillings. And then after Corona, we said, now, since we are not hiring a hall, we could lower the price to 2,500. And these are our approved trainers. So any one of them, from Dr. Loda Chumba, you can see Catherine Mwangi number 7 there. Each one of them could train any of these courses. So again, any training you participate as a HR professional, you need also to know, are those trainers approved by ACHRP to train? Are we getting a certificate at the end of this training? So you can see the approval there, approved for 2 CPD. So that course was for 2 CPD points. Now, we were able to do trainings at the venues indicated up to course number 3. That is coaching and mentoring skills for leadership success. We also held 2020 Labor Laws Compliance Summit at Lake Naivasha Resort. So again, if you click on the course code, you're able to see this is 2020 Labor Laws Compliance Summit. Is it approved? Yes, it is approved. For how many CPD points? 6. We move on to the course we had today. This was the power of feedback, course number 15. If you click on the course code, that is number 15, you click on number 15, you're able to view that the course is approved for 2 CPD points. Fine. Although the course was said to take place at Kenya Comfort Hotel, you know what is happening. Nobody wants to risk. So we carried our training today via Zoom. That's why we charge for the courses, because, for example, to get this approval for this particular training, or for us to get our programs approved for this year, we got an invoice for 435,000, which we paid. So that every year, and we've done this training since 2017. 2017, we had a total of how many? We had a total of 37 courses. 2018, we had another list of trainings. 2019, up to 2020. The good thing of being on the portal is, again, for those who started with us since 2017, they are still able to view their trainings. They are still able to access their certificates. They are still able to access their notes. Now, this is how you view your presentation. So next time we announce a training, you can register beforehand. Why? You can be able to view the PowerPoint presentation on your portal. It opens the way it has done for mine, and you can use this the module on the right-hand side, where you are able to go to next page, and so on. So in your account, these documents or these training materials will remain there. However, the moment you register for a training, check for the webinar link on the left panel. You can see the webinar link was there all along. The webinar ID is there. The webinar password is there. And after this training, the video for the training is available for you. If you click on the YouTube link down there, it is able to open. And you can now view the training as it happened inside your portal. So then there is that part of certificate available on. So at the end of the day, this link will be green in color. You will be able to click on it and download your certificate. And if you want to go back to the courses, you click my courses. If you are through with learning, you click log out. So I'll go back to my courses. Then for purposes of moving forward, I've paused the share. Yes. So there we are. For those who've remained with me throughout, then that was very good. Let me hear anything from you. And if you have a question, you can always reach me on 0722. I'll also type it on the message there, chat 0722 300 245. There we are. Any question, Christine, Doreen, Elizabeth? Anita? Mele? Virginia? So thank you. Thank you for today's training, and have a good. If you've got something to say, you can say that. So thank you for today's training. You have a good afternoon, then stay safe. Until our next training for CPD, that would be on strategies for improving employee performance. Strategies for improving employees' performance. Then our trainer then will be Mr. James Wanyama, who is the Executive Director of Institute of Pensions Management. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Karibu, karibu.